face first appeared on the news. One of the missing. Then, one of the survivors. And according to the very superstitious few, the reason the house fell. I couldn't move, because I didn't know if I was allowed to be here. I didn't want to be here, but I needed to say goodbye. "We don't have to go in if you don't want to," Keturah said as she pulled her long coat tight around her. Her afro was in full bloom today, voluminous and freshly dyed, a radiant shade of lilac, and the coils and kinks fluttered in the breeze. Andor nodded his agreement and stepped closer, hunching his broad shoulders to try to shield me from the cold and the stairs and all that was holding me back, as if he could read my unease as effortlessly as I read his. He'd carefully framed his handsome face with dark curls in an attempt to cover his milky eye and the scar that ran through it, but it was no use against the wind, and in public, every secret glimpse of me was another pointed at him and all Coralie took from him. Us. If I were a braver, more considerate girl, I would have seized his hand and taken him away, spared him the spectacle. Only, we weren't together. Any potential we could have had seemed to stay behind in Prague. And here we were, only distant friends, so instead I adjusted the lace gloves and turtleneck I used to cover my own scars and pivoted on my heel. "Maybe we just should go." "Nope," Neve snapped, snatching up my elbow in her small, strong grip. Her hazel eyes glared at me from behind overgrown black bangs. "I don't know what your problem is, but I'm freezing my tits off. We're going in." Keturah pried the girl's hand away. "Neve?" But I didn't continue my retreat. It wasn't her fault she didn't know. She wasn't there when the walls collapsed with me and more than 100 others still inside. She didn't know what I did and what was done to me before and after. All she knew was that I needed to be here for some reason, that I'd invited her along, and now I was being unusually spineless, not at all the girl she met back in Prague. Neve studied us, sharp gaze flicking between Keturah, Andor, and me with interest, searching for the secret we held that she didn't. Then finally, she relented, shrugged and waved goodbye. "Fine. Do whatever you want, but I'm going inside to defrost." And so, reluctantly, I was forced to march up the stairs after her. It had been only a couple of weeks since we'd met, and even less since she became one of us. It was my doing that recruited her and brought her into the fold, so I'd be damned to let my only disciple out of my sight so soon, not with Acheron's powers so fresh in her untrained veins, and so many vulnerable people she'd be tempted to try it on. No. I'd brave the silly memorial and fundraiser, because I still remembered every craving and dark thought that caught me off guard when I first became an acolyte, and I could never forget the urges that followed long after I knew what I was doing. To my surprise, Acheron lay dormant as I approached the church. Though I expected it to recoil, to hiss and spit and shirk away from the house of another god, the wicked dart gave neither a lazy glance around nor a passing interest in this place and the growing line of mourners at the entrance. In fact, despite my newfound status as its vessel, despite my harboring some unknown breadth of its eldritch existence in my very body, it shared so little. What it all meant, its plans, its thoughts, and relationships to anything. Maybe none of this mattered because Acheron was something so much other than I'd ever known. Without any indicators one way or another, I was left to only guess. By the expressions on Andor's and Keturah's faces, I knew their little shards of Acheron weren't giving off warning signs either. Shifting from foot to foot as we got in line, Neve asked, "So, did you, know someone who died or something?" Though she sounded casual, I didn't miss the prying sideways glance. She wore her scheming plain in her eyes, like she wanted to detect some other answer in my set jaw, like I was a mark she was preparing to swindle. My hand flitted to my wallet in my coat pocket, just in case, which she also took note of. No one else noticed. Inside